Alright, we are going to do a video here on NIO, NIO, so this is the Chinese Tesla, if you will. Made a good bit of videos about NIO, and really hadn't made anything for a while because we were seeing the same thing. We were just continuing to trend down, bounce off of a level, come back up, hit this downward trend line. And it looks as if we almost popped it back here towards late August, but it was a fake break, and we continued to just get lower and lower, trading lower and lower. It was just bleeding out, and then eventually one day we had a big sell-off. We dropped, goodness, it was like 8%, I think, 8 or 9% that one day. And then the following day we bounced, and since then, so that was back at the beginning of September, since then we have rallied up, about 25%. So looking pretty good, but, just looking at my chart here, we had our little support down here at 260. We had our downward trend. And then we had these other support lines which we violated as we moved lower and lower. The first one being 328 to 330. The second one being down here around 290. The next one being down around 280. And, the 261, which I already spoke on. But, just moving forward, looking at NIO, it still has some work to do, for sure. So we've seen a nice move up. We've hit that 330 mark. In my opinion, we're going to move down from here. This has been a pretty strong move, but the volume, if we're looking just over these past, say, like 5 to 7 trading days, the volume isn't really that high. So this could just be, a slow move up, and then, we might start to see some people take some profits from this move, moving us back down to, say, the 310 to $3 range on the upper side. On the lower side, we might see anywhere from 280 to 290 if this does come back down. But we're looking pretty good. Just the fact that the volume on this move is a little bit lower than we've seen in the past. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that. But, we might be looking at a similar circumstance to what we saw back here in June. So we came down, hit around 230, saw this nice bounce, hit a resistance level, pulled back down, consolidated, and then saw a bigger rally. So we might be approaching something like that, to where we come down, somewhere in this 3 to the high 290s, kind of bounce off these moving averages here on the 4-hour, and then maybe start to crawl back up and hopefully break through that 330 mark, and press higher. But I do want to point out something interesting here on NIO. And we'll go ahead and pull it up here. It's on the daily charts. It's 1 year, and every candlestick is a day's worth of trading. And it's a little bit congested to see with all of these lines in here, but I'll go ahead and remove that one, and this one, and that one, and this one as well. So if you're looking at this chart, and I've pointed this out before, on this 1 year, 1 day, we have not traded and held above the 50 and the 100-day moving average since March. We had that huge sell-off. We went all the way from $10 all the way down here to $2. And now we are just starting to see us finally climb and hold above both the 50 and the 100-day moving average. We tried back here in early July to mid-July. We tried, it was a very strong, quick rally, and we pushed through the 50, made it up to the 100. It acted as a resistance. This 100-day moving average almost correlates with that downward trend line that I had drawn in. Not perfect, but you can kind of see what it is that I'm talking about here. So not only was it getting beaten down by this downward trend, but we also had the 100 pushing us down until we finally came down here. We had some buyers that were willing to step in down here around 260, and that sparked a pushback up. We now are seeing both the 50 and 100 almost flat. So if we can push through that 330 mark and say maybe push through the 350 mark, we might start to be looking good. A big resistance that we're going to have to get through is up here around the $4 mark. If we really start to see this move, and we don't really see a consolidation over a couple days to a week period of time, or maybe even 2 weeks, right down in here, and we start to see this thing move towards $4, we will have not only the resistance of the highs off this previous leg around the high 390s, $4 mark, but we are also going to be staring at the 200-day moving average here on the daily. And we saw just how significant the 100-day moving average was, so there is the possibility that we have some momentum and we pop through it, but it's still pointing down at a pretty good angle here. So do not think that just because this thing is going up, that it can't be stopped in its tracks and turned the other way. Look what happened right here. It's the same scenario. We were up 50%, right? And then over 2 days, we retraced back down 13% of that, and then we just continued lower and lower and lower. So, I just want to point that out. While we are looking good here on the daily, if we see some sort of consolidation here and then a move up, we might be sitting somewhere around this 270 range if we continue to propel up. But 290, if we continue up, this 390 level along with this 200-day moving average might stop NIO in its tracks for the time being. But just wanted to point that out. But anyway, the bulk of what I was wanting to talk about, I have now said. As far as levels moving forward, I've already briefly spoke on them. I'm going to stay with the 4-hour chart because it gives us the best view of what has been going on here in the past. But again, 330, very important. Tomorrow we will react in one way or another on this 330 mark. In my opinion, we're going to head a little bit lower, kind of like what we did back here. Maybe not as significant of a drop, but we will head lower, consolidate a little bit, and then continue to push higher, hopefully above this 330 mark. Once we make it through 330, remember we had all of this trading back here, which might not be as significant now. These traders might be out of NIO, but if we are seeing some bag holders from back in this area who are looking to get out, we could be seeing the 340 range, the 350, anywhere in here people are going to be selling, and that could stagger the price and stifle it a little bit on the way up. But if we make it through there, so we'll just put one in, we'll call it right around here, around 345. If we make it through that resistance, let's start to look up a little bit higher, somewhere around here, around 372. And at that point, if we're really moving, when we get up to that point, I think the RSI might be a little bit overbought, and we might start to see some people prior to getting to these highs. If they got in even around 330, they got their nice 13% gain, and they're gonna get out because this last little 7% might not be worth it for them. So you might start to see a lot of people start to take their profits here, especially if that 200-day on the daily is coming down and kind of pushing the price back down and leading to some resistance. So those would be the targets on the upside. Downside, again, if we were to consolidate somewhere down here around 3 or the high 290s, maybe even bounce off the 310 mark potentially. On the lower side, if we were to break through that, let's look down here around the 280s. so the mid 280s. If we were to come down here on the 280s, we might have a possible back test of this downward trend. We might see a back test and then a rally, but if we fail that back test and we continue lower, at that point we really want to keep an eye on 260 to see if it holds. So hopefully this video helped you, gave you guys an idea of what it is that I'm seeing here on NIO, and some potential moves that it could make moving into the coming week of trading. Only have a couple days left this week, so we'll see how we finish out this week and how we move into next week. But again, make sure you do your own due diligence when you're trading these stocks. It's very important to have your own plan, your own entries, your own exits, and why you think they should be where they are. So hopefully this video helped, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.